On today's second DNVR Broncos show, we're going to talk about, is Quinn Meinerz the best guard in the NFL? And regardless of that, should he be paid as the best guard in the NFL? Because the Broncos have that decision to make. And we're also talking to our guy, Brian Baldinger. The show starts now. Doubleheader Tuesday coming your way. And for the second show, Henry's now on the DL. We've got Todd Davis, Zach Stevens here behind the camera, rocking and rolling with you from Studio B here inside the DNVR Bar. Todd, how you doing since the past 15 minutes?
Better. I mean, we got Henry out of here, and now we're on to another smash. I'm just
playing. We can finally talk ball.
We miss Henry, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
We miss Henry like we just did.
You're already missing him, huh?
Man, it's tough.
You feeling Henry? You missing him?
Whoa.
Whoa.
I didn't say that. You did on the last show.
No, I feel you I emotionally. You know what I'm saying? Not touching.
How much do the Broncos feel Quinn Meinerz? How much do they need him? That's what we're talking about on this second show. Breaking down Quinn Meinerz, how good he is, how crucial he is to Sean Payton, how crucial he is to this offense, and then what type of contract the Broncos will give him. Plus, we're going to ask Brian Baldinger these exact same questions because he's the offensive line guru. So let's start there, Todd. How important, and let's start at a different place. There are a lot of people that say quarterback is obviously the most important position, not just in football, but in sports. Is that fair? Do you agree?
Quarterback?
Yep.
I guess.
Okay. Wow, I guess this is going to be tough then, moving down. Then a lot of other people believe, and I'll just throw myself in here, but it's kind of like just a widely thought of view for decades now. Then is tackle, cornerback, and pass rusher are kind of the next three. Do you agree? Not necessarily in that order, but those are kind of the other three.
Yes, I agree with that.
You agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. Then what?
Linebacker.
Yeah, I was going to say, when's linebacker coming into this? And I was going to bring linebacker into this because when we're talking about the guard position, that is one of the positions that just gets undervalued year in and year out, decade in, decade out, team in and team out, nearly every single place across the NFL. Kind of like inside linebacker does a lot of the times. And you don't realize how important it is until you have a great one, or you don't realize how important it is until you don't have a great one. But if I said that to you, like guard and inside linebacker are two of the least valued positions on their side of the ball, what would you say to that?
100% agree. I feel like if there was like a bottom three, not that they should be least valued, but how people view them, I would say it would be running back, inside linebacker, and offensive guard will probably be the bottom three most thought of as being valued positions in the NFL for sure.
Well, I mean, totally. I thought you were going to punch me. Instead, you agree with me because, of course, for the maybe 1% of people that don't know, Todd Davis was an inside linebacker for the Denver Broncos for 5 years and in the NFL for 7 years. So for him to agree with that just, I think, speaks volumes. And really, I think that's going to make this conversation really interesting because I thought you were going to say, like, no, like tackles are less important than guards or centers or something like that. Well, in that conversation, where do guards and centers compare? Because I think everyone would say tackles are more valuable than guards and centers. But how is it between guard and center?
I would say it should be tackles with the most importance, then guards, then centers, kind of working your way outside in. Usually the guy in the middle has the most help, has a little bit more responsibility as far as like making mic checks. That's a mental side of the game. But as far as like help with like a Chris Jones or a very talented inside rusher, or if somebody's facing a Von Miller on the edge, like the centers have a lot more help from guard to guard as opposed to a tackle on an island with Von. It's one-on-one, and you got to live to fight another day.
So what about an inside linebacker who's blitzing? Would you rather be trying to go through the center or the guard, or does that not really matter?
I'd probably say the guard on that one.
Yep.
Just because once again, for me, I have more wiggle room. If I have an outside pass rusher that's really pushing that tackle vertical, that creates space in the B gap.
Yep.
And if they're already working a game on the other side involving that center, I possibly can have a two-way go on a guard and kind of leave him on the island. But if I'm working the center, no matter which way I decide to go, there's a guard and there's a guard. So there's not a lot of space to be created in there.
So then when we're talking about value, you said that you agree that cornerback is one of the top 4 most valuable spots on a field. Where's wide receiver-ish?
Right after cornerback, if it's top, yeah. So it's, what'd you say? Quarterback, tackle, cornerback, pass rusher. Okay, maybe 5.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe
okay.
5,
So it's in the conversation. So how surprising is it then when we talk contracts that the highest paid wide receiver is $35 million a year? The highest paid pass rusher, $34 million a year with Nick Bosa. That's probably, I guess it's surprising that the wide receiver's overpaid than that.
Yep.
And then cornerback, the guy that covers wide receiver, that's probably a little more valuable than wide receiver, is $21 million.
It's tough, but the reason why it is that way, in my opinion, is body type. I think it's hard to find a Joe Alt 6'8", 3, whatever, and get him to be athletic. I think for corners, even though they're not all locked down, I can find a 6'1", 195 guy that plays corner, pretty much everywhere. I can't find, a wide receiver like Courtland Sutton that's 6'3.5", that runs a 4.4 and can catch any ball you throw his way. I think those are like some of those traits, along with like body height, size, and speed, are unique to certain positions.
So is it unique to be? It's unique to be a tackle.
Yes,
because you have to be huge, strong, and fast enough.
Yep.
At least, like Trent Williams. When you think of the best tackle in the NFL, he is so athletic, but also just huge.
Yep.
What about guards though? When we move in, is it unique? Is it hard to find that body type and those traits?
I think it's hard, but not as hard as tackle.
Yeah.
And I think center is probably the easiest. It's usually the smallest O-lineman, usually the most agile, kind of like tweener guys, you would say. Whereas a guard, I think guards come in different varieties. That's the tough thing about playing guard. And, I think everybody knows what they want their tackle to look like, but your guard could be 6'1", 300 pounds.
Yep.
He could be 6'4", 325. It just truly depends, each person, the person. Same thing with center. You have centers like Travis Kelce. You have centers that are a little bit bigger, but it's a lot of variation when you get into the interior O-lineman.
And you never hear of a guy coming out of college who's a guard and they say, well, he could also play tackle. Like you might slide him out to play tackle. No, it's the opposite. It's,
exactly.
He's a tackle, but you might slide him in to play guard just because he has a better body type for guard than in the NFL, where in college he could absolutely play both. But then what about inside linebacker? Let's just continue this to your position. Is it easy to find those guys? The traits, the size?
They would say yes. The NFL would definitely say yes.
I thought you were built different, Tom.
I am built different, and that's why I play. You know what I'm saying?
He's built different from 99% of the population. That 1% is the one in the NFL.
Exactly. But for guys like between 6 foot and 6'2", 240 pounds. Surprisingly, there's a good amount of them out there.
Yeah.
And depending on what system you're in, your responsibilities can be more limited than like a corner or a pass rusher at times. So what some teams try to do is they just pay inside linebackers less because we'll just get a good pass rusher and we'll get a good safety and we'll get a good corner and we won't ask this guy to do much. And if he just runs around and kind of like hits something or like gets in the way a couple times, it'll be enough for us to win the game. And so I think that's how they think about it.
Right. Because they just need to like slow people down a little bit.
Yeah.
And do their assignment. I see that. So if you're building a prototypical inside linebacker, what's the height and weight?
Prototypical,
we'll say he's fast. We'll say he's smart.
Okay, all the things.
Yep.
I would probably say 6'2".
Okay.
6'2 and a half.
Okay.
Because that way you're a great matchup for tight ends and coverage. And I would probably say if you could be fast and strong at 6'2 and a half, 240.
Okay.
I think that's like
What if I told you 6'4", 250?
It's a big boy.
This is a big boy.
Yeah.
That was almost like you coming out. No, you were 6.
I was like almost 6'1",
almost 6'1", 250. Yes, you had the size. That's Jonas Griffith.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, we're talking prototype. He's just a little bigger than kind of the prototype you said. But Jonas seems like he's fast. You've trained with him, so you know. But I mean, just going through this conversation, it's like, man, the Broncos might have like almost a prototype guy.
They have him at 6'4".
That's what the Broncos have him at.
Stop the cap. Shout out to Jonas, man. I love him. I think he's a phenomenal linebacker. I think this is his year to step up. But 6'4", come on, guys.
What,
that's
one
crazy.
inch taller than you?
Yes,
Okay.
at most.
What about height or weight? Do you think he's 250?
Yeah, he's solid. He's solid. He might be like 245. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then
solid.
let's flip this over to the offensive guard position, and we'll dive in to Quinn Meinerz conversation right after we talk to Baldy. But let's talk about the guard position. Quinn, or a guard, what would you say is a prototypical size of a guard? The ideal.
Yeah, I'd probably say between 6'2" and 6'4". If you can get one that's agile and could be like 305, 315.
Okay.
I think that would probably be a solid guard.
So you said between 6'2" and 6'4".
Yep.
6'3" is right in between it.
Yep.
Quinn Meinerz 6'3".
Yep.
And you said 305 to 315.
Yep.
Quinn Meinerz, big boy, 320.
Oh yeah,
because
big
he's
body.
got the belly there. So I mean, in terms of like the underrated or undervalued positions on both sides of the ball, Broncos have two almost like prototypical in terms of size, and we'll see about Jonas. And you know more about Jonas than probably anyone since you've worked with him, you've trained with him. But on paper, Jonas is fast too. Like before he's been injured, you could see how fast he is. So as long as, I mean, it pretty much just boils down to the mentals with him.
For sure.
And from the conversations I've had with him, it seems like he certainly has that. So really exciting prospect there. And then obviously Quinn. We've seen what Quinn has developed into on the Broncos in his first 3 years in the NFL. And he's up for a contract extension any point now. He could get one now, and then he's a free agent next year. So let's dive into just how much should the Broncos pay him? Should there be a limit that the Broncos set and potentially just let him walk in free agency? We're going to have this conversation with the offensive lineman mastermind, Brian Baldinger, in just a second. But before he joins us, I got to give a shout out to our friends over at Bet365. We're over at Bet365. They are giving you a deal of $150 in bonus bets with a bet and get offer. So what you have to do, you place a $5 bet over at Bet365, and they're going to give you $150 in bonus bets. And if you want to up the ante, you can get another offer, which is a first bet safety net offer up to $2,000. If you place your qualifying bet and it loses, you received a match refund in bonus bets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. That's because they have so many different types of bets, so many different types of boosts. I believe we partnered with Bet365 before last season. We had a bet that the Broncos would break the losing streak against the Chiefs, which is kind of a weird parlay because it's 2 games that you're parlaying at different points in the season. Of course, that paid plus money, and you would have won that bet over at Bet365. So we have specific bets with Bet365 for Broncos, for Nuggets, for Rockies, for Avs, for the Colorado sports that you guys love to watch. So check them out. Use that code DNVR365 over at Bet365 to get both of those offers when you sign up. And of course, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, once help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
And shout out to our friends over at Toyota. You guys know we love Toyota. We're in the Toyota chat now. Toyota Lounge is downstairs, and we miss it so much. But Toyotas are great vehicles, specifically like the 2024 new Tacoma. They have the 2024 Land Cruiser coming in the spring. So they have over 17 models available with all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the Epic 4Runner. Toyota also currently offers more low and zero-emission vehicles combined than any other automaker. Toyotas are the best, man. I think they have whatever you're into, whatever your speed, wherever you want to go, Toyota will take you there. And you need to visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. They have a lot, so just listen up. They have Auto Nation Toyota in Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Arroyo, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL and the official vehicle of DNVR.
All right, our guy Baldy should be joining us in any moment you hear. When you hear that buzz, let me know. And Baldy was at something really cool this week. The Sack Summit is what it's now called. Von Miller's Sack Summit. He was there. Was Von doing this? Yeah, when you were on the team.
Yep.
He started it a long time ago. And this is something that now, like, tight ends do it. I don't know if any other position does it, but I think a few others do it. But I think that Von's was the very first one where he gathered players from other places and other teams and kind of got everyone position, all the pass rushers at one summit to kind of learn from each other.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. I mean, guys are able to pass on so much knowledge and kind of just get better from specific tackles, how they set, what we feel like works best, and kind of spread that knowledge around the league.
And we've got our guy Brian Baldinger joining us now, who was at the Sack Summit this weekend. Baldy, of course, the Sack Summit is near and dear to Broncos Country because Von Miller was the one who started this many, many years ago when he was still with the Broncos, and you were out there. What was it like?
Yeah. It was great. It was the first time I've been to Von's Sack Summit. They have a real good group called Rubicon who they kind of like really sponsored the whole thing. And we got probably 60 players, including a lot of, rookies that came this year. But Max Crosby, you see Matt Judon back there, Brian Burns, Cam Jordan. It was well attended. We're out there in the field. It was probably 110. Nobody was complaining about the heat. But these kind of sessions that you're watching right now with Von, just talk about some of the things that, he's learned over his 14 years. It's just cool looking at the young guys and seeing them just kind of eat this all up, taking notes in the classroom, watching the film that we did. It was really a good 2 days. And this was the 7th year. And Von said this is by far the best year. And I think it's only going to kind of grow and even be more well attended in future years to come.
Now, Bolles, I think this is really cool, and I think that guys are really going to benefit from the wisdom that you're imparting on them here in this video. Is this unique to kind of Von in this time, or was this around kind of when you played? Was there like guard summits, tackle summits, O-line summits, or is this something that's new where players are coming together to share information?
Honestly, this is new. Like nobody would have ever done this back when I played. Sharing knowledge was like. I remember one time we were at a golf tournament with the Chicago Bears. I think we went to the bar just to fight. There wasn't no like transferring of ideas, So this is new. But, the thing that's interesting about what Von says is like, Baldy, a lot of people say that, like, why would you give away your trade secrets or what you try to do? And he's like, his thing is try to stop it, okay? Max Crosby, try to stop what we're doing. Like they're kind of bold like that. But I think it's pretty cool. That they feel like this is their way of kind of giving back. They've all benefited. All these guys I just mentioned, Von, Max, Cam, they've all gotten their $100 million plus contracts in their career. They're set up. But you see, guys like Laiatu Latu, who was there, and Darius Robinson, and a young guy like Kalijah Cansey. Like they're soaking this stuff up. And it's going to help the next generation. And I think just how attentive these young guys were, honestly, I feel like Von's going to pass the torch to Max. Max is going to, pass the torch to Brian Burns. And I'm going to the OL Masterminds in Frisco, Texas next week. And, Lane Johnson kind of started that after Von started. And this is our 7th year of doing it down there. And it's like over 400 people. Now we got high school kids coming and college kids. And so I think it's really great just to talk the game and share ideas. And, the one thing that stood out, honestly, the whole weekend was Cam Jordan in his 14th year with 116 sacks, whatever he's got. He's like, I steal from everybody. Like he said he's going to steal something that Kalijah Cansey told him on a cross chop. So I think it's great that everybody can benefit no matter how old you are, how many years you've been in the league.
Baldy, you are the offensive lineman mastermind. You mentioned the trade secrets. Do you feel like you're, stabbing your offensive lineman in the back here, helping these defensive guys out, get by them?
No, I don't think so. I'm an analyst here, so I'm kind of like in the middle here. I'm going to go to the offensive line masterminds, probably tell them some of the things that Vaughn was talking about that they're looking at, just to kind of bring them up to speed. But I'm not really saying anything that you can't see on film. If you're doing your homework, you're really studying your opponent. I mean, you're gonna kind of figure out some of the things that these guys are doing, some of the things that they're good at. But it is a chess match back and forth right now between the two. In fact, in Dallas this year, they're bringing in Mike Pereira to just sort of, let the players know what the officials are looking at, what you can do, what you can't do, what you can get away with, what you'll be warned about. So I think players are just always – this has been going on since the beginning of the league. Like, the players are always just looking for an edge. Whatever edge they can get to become a little bit better on Sunday, they'll do it.
So it sounds like old linemen are once again trying to cheat, but we won't talk about that. We'll just let that slide. When you go to these different summits and camps, especially the old lineman one, is there one thing in particular that you feel like great old linemen have or you need to be a great old lineman?
Yeah, I think outside of like everybody's got their own toolbox, things that you have to be able to master no matter who you're playing against. You're playing against Von Miller or you're playing against a rookie at offensive tackle. There's certain fundamentals that you have to master. So beyond your toolbox, the most important thing is just how you play with the guy next to you and how you play as a group. And the great lines figured out the communication, what the guy next to him is doing, maybe with nonverbal communication at the very snap when the defensive line stems or changes or blitz or stunts. Like, can they work together to handle what they're doing to them? And I think that's really the most important thing is time with the guys next to you where you really feel like, okay, here comes this exit stunt. Here comes this Texas stunt. It's coming at you. How are we handling this? And so I think that's the most important thing after mastering your toolbox.
And I hope one of the guys at the offensive line mastermind later with you, Baldy, is Quinn Meinerz, one of the best young guards in the NFL. And today we're talking about just he can get a contract extension for the Broncos. Now only 1 year left on his deal. And you look at the guard market, and it is wild right now. The highest paid guards are getting $20 million per year. And I would just assume with the way Quinn is, he's probably in that market. Is that something that the Broncos should pony up for? And is Quinn worth that when it comes to this Broncos offensive line?
I think so. I think he is. He had a great season last year. He started every game. I don't know if he played every play. I don't know exactly, but I know he started every game. He was one of the best guards in the league last year. Landon Dickerson, I'm close to Landon. They came in the same draft together. Quinn was drafted around behind him. Philadelphia just rewarded him. He just got his big contract. And Landon's a good player. Probably played more games right now than Quinn, but Quinn has just steadily gotten better and better. I remember, when Sean Payton was in New Orleans, he had the two highest paid guards in the league at one point. Carl Nicks got the contract, and then, their Pro Bowler at right guard got paid. Like, they had two highly paid guards. In fact, I'm almost positive they were the two highest paid guards in the league at one point. And, Sean's thing was, Drew Brees needed a flat pocket. He needed to be able to step up. And Carl Nicks ended up having, turf toe and injuries, and he couldn't really perform very long. But for a while, like they set the standard for what the interior of a pocket should look like. And I think Quinn has that ability. You paid, Ben Powers last year. Garett Bolles has, gotten his check. I feel like you got to lock Quinn up. You can't let him walk. Because I think like he's only going to get better, and he's going to be, I think he might even become a better player, in his fourth year.
Baldy, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Quinn's game. I think he's a great offensive guard all the way around, but there's something he does that always gave me trouble that I don't feel like all guards do. I feel like, especially in the run game, when he's going up against linebackers, he just basically says, I'm going to beat you to a spot. I'm going to run full speed. You're 230, I'm 320, and I'm going to just knock your head off. And I feel like he does that every single play. Is that unique to him? Because I don't feel like all guards do that. I feel like a lot of guys stutter or kind of get slow when they get to the top. He just runs straight through guys and tries to demolish them at the point of attack.
Well, I always say, I mean, it's great point. I always say that you're not going to be a good running team until you get the second level blocked. So you're getting your interior. You've got to get to the second level. We know how fast you guys are inside, and you're reading your keys. You're getting on your horse. And, you can't overrun plays, so you have to kind of know that too. You're working in conjunction with the guy next to you, the other interior, inside linebacker. So, you've got to take great angles. You got to know geometry. You got to know the angles. If it's an outside zone, you're going to have to come flatter. If it's an inside zone, you're going to have more time to really butt these guys up and head them up. So you got to understand the play, the design of the play, and just anticipate where these guys are going to go. And if you miss, you're going to make the play. I mean, if you don't block Fred Warner right now, if you can't figure out a way he'll make every tackle. So those kind of guys, so that's important. And Quinn's good at it, but he's just a good run blocker, period. I mean, taking 3 techniques off the ball, driving him. He's got good power. He plays with good leverage. I mean, he's just a good run blocker, period, whether it's a down defensive lineman or up at the second level.
Baldy, I asked Todd this earlier, and I want to ask you, there's such a discrepancy now with the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL and the highest paid cornerbacks in the NFL. Justin Jefferson making $35 million a year. I believe Jalen Ramsey or Ward is the highest paid cornerback at $21 million. And you have 4 wide receivers making over $30 million and just only a couple corners making over $20 million. Why is that when cornerback is such a highly valued position?
Well, I mean, the wide receiver market exploded this year, and so it's all changed. We'll see what Jamar gets. We'll see what CD gets. So we know what the market just got set at. Because I don't think any one corner in this business right now can take out any one wide receiver. I don't believe that. I mean, I know Pat Surtain is a great player. I mean, I could go through the list. I know he gives Devontae a really good matchup. I just don't think that any corner, with the way the rules are, right, and the rules favor the receiver, I just don't think any corner can just take the receiver out and just, Deion Sanders, a guy, and just eliminate him. I mean, Sauce Gardner is really, really good. But even that, I mean, between the pass interference penalties and what receivers are able to do versus corners can do, I think that's part of it. But I feel like there's just more because of the passing game. There's just more star receivers right now than star corners. We all can rip off the receivers that are elite players. I don't think we can rip off the same amount of corners that can match up with those type of players right now. So I think that's part of the discrepancy. And I think that's going to stay like that for a little while.
Baldy, is that the same reason why there's a pay discrepancy between highly ranked defensive tackles and offensive guards? Is it because that no one can take Chris Jones one-on-one or an Aaron Donald in the same way?
Well, I feel like part of what I was also saying is if you want to take the X receiver out and limit him, you can do that because you got the sideline out there. The guys that are getting the targets are playing inside right now, where it's just harder to match up. Now, not every corner can go inside. Jalen can do that at times, but he's kind of plays on the outside. The discrepancy between guards and defense, I mean, we're seeing all these positions. Typically, the defensive tackles didn't get paid, but we saw, Daron Payne, Quinnen Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, Chris Jones. We saw the defensive tackle market explode over the last 3 years. And that's really, really changed. Just the way the receiver market has changed. But I think it's kind of how you build your teams right now. I think a lot of teams feel like quarterbacks, if they're really good, are a little bit more adept at avoiding edge pressure, but there's nothing they can do about Chris Jones being right in their face. And so they're rewarding these guys that collapse the pocket from the inside right now.
Yeah, awesome analysis. As always, Baldy, before you get out of here, you were at the SAC Summit. You were also hanging out with Lord Stanley Cup. Did you get to drink out of the cup?
I didn't, unfortunately. I was at Game 7. The cup went. It traveled through Fort Lauderdale that night. It traveled the other day. I did not drink out of the cup. That was my goal, but I just couldn't corral the cup. It was being touched and handled by too many players to be able to jump in on him right there.
If anyone stepped in and taken the cup, it would have been you out and about. Baldy, thank you so much for joining us today. Awesome insight as always.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. See you, Todd. See you, Zach. Be good now.
Todd.
Okay.
See you, Baldy. I'm definitely one of those people where we get in certain situations, like when you say bye to people, I always say like the wrong thing, and then I turn around and I'm like, what the hell did I just say?
Like when you get on a plane and like somebody says, have a good flight, you're like, you too, and you're like, oh, they're just working at the airport.
Yeah, but if it's the steward, the flight attendant, they should have a good flight too, right?
You would hope, yeah.
If it's a stewardess, yeah.
On the plane coming home from Mexico this week, they started the descent service early. So like because of the turbulence coming into Denver, and so they asked like the flight attendants to wrap up the cabin or close the cabin before, and then right before we landed, the pilot came on and said, flight attendants, restrain yourself. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be really bad landing here. And it was totally fine.
It was fine.
But I was like, flight attendants, restrain yourself.
That means lock it down, baby.
For real. Okay, so awesome conversation from Baldy there. Want to get into some of the things that he said. And also want to talk about getting really into Quinn and exactly what the Broncos should pay him, if they should pay him. I think Baldy brought up some really good points there. But got to give a shout out to our friends over at Coors Light, where it's the place to chill. It's the time to chill. It's the beer to chill. And you can do that by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR, where we love Coors Light. I mean, I'm looking around. I see 4 Coors Light things in this office alone. You guys know when we're in the Toyota Lounge, we've got the Coors Light right there with like 7 frosty Coors Lights ready to go. We even have a Coors Light fridge because Coors Light is all about chilling. So you got to keep it cold. And whether you're hanging out by yourself, whether you're chilling with your family, whether you're chilling with friends, whether you're chilling at the DNVR bar or chilling in your backyard, Coors Light is the beer to go to. Or it's even a great beer for the mountain. If you're hiking a 14er and it's cold up there, it's chilly. Whether you're skiing, it's a great beer to have. So make sure to go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. We're just going to get you delivered through Instacart. So check them out. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly.
I always have heard those terms like, oh, I hiked a 14. Like, what is a 14er? Like, is that a distance?
Yep. It's 14,000 feet.
Okay.
It's a great question, though, because I grew up in Colorado, and anytime that we tell, so I've done 10 of them. I've hiked 10 14ers.
There you go.
And anytime we do it and we tell, like, one of my wife's family members out of state, they say the exact same thing. They're like, oh, that's awesome. But what's a 14er?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, 14,000 feet. But it's very much not just a Colorado thing, but like Colorado, parts of California, and like there's a couple in Washington.
It's like a mountain town thing. That definitely. Hikers
exactly.
know. Hikers lingo.
Mountain. Yeah. If you're Colorado.
It's mountain, not mountain.
Mountain?
Yeah, you don't say the T.
You don't pronounce the T's.
That's
Wait, how do you
crazy.
say it?
Mountain?
Yeah.
That's how you would say it normally?
Yes.
Yeah, mountain.
It's mountain.
Mountain.
No.
That's the Colorado accent
country.
there.
Yeah, you say mountain, not mountain.
Oh, man. Well, shout out to our friends over at Volo Sports. If you guys want to enjoy the good weather, it's been surprisingly good weather. I've expected it to be like extremely hot. I have family in California. I have family in Texas. I have family in Vegas, and they are just going crazy about these 100-degree days back to back to back. And it's been really good for us. So if you want to get out, enjoy the weather and play some sports, right now you can sign up for the Volo Pass using code DNVR3. And the Volo Pass is a premier monthly membership program that gives members unlimited access to sports, events, and social activities every night of the week. And I'm going to let you know what the Volo Pass members receive. So you get the Modern Day Sport and Social Club for only $20 a month. You get the best way to meet new people, get active, and play games in the city. Allows unlimited access to pickups and league drop-ins as a sub. So if you don't have a team to run with and you just want to get in with a new group of people and want to show them how great you are, drop on in and let them see your greatness. And you can sign up on the Volo app using code DNVR3 to get the Volo Pass for only $10 a month for the first 3 months.
Boom. Okay, so another word. Oh, I was trying to find other words that are just like mountain. How do you pronounce actually the sponsor that I just read?
Coors Light.
Coors. Okay. A lot of people say, how do people say it?
I always do.
Coors? Wait. Some people say it differently. And Coors? Yeah, Coors.
Coors.
Coors. It's Coors.
Hey, real quick.
Okay, at least we're all on the same page.
What do you call a pile of cats?
A pile of cats? I have a pile of cats at home. I don't know what you call a pile of cats.
A mountain.
I love it. I've got a new one to bring home right now.
It's a good dad joke for everybody out there. You know what I'm saying? Keep a couple dad jokes in your pocket. You know, you never know when you need them. I might have a few.
Specifically to embarrass the kids?
Yeah, just to get a little laugh. You know what I'm saying?
I'm all about that. That's a good one. Baldy also had some really good information. I mean, you talk about the heat. He was in Vegas for that SAC Summit, said it was 110 out there, and they're still crazy. Outside. I mean, come on. It's Von Miller. It's Cam Jordan. It's Max Crosby. It's the top guys. Why are they in Vegas for this?
You know why they're in Vegas.
Okay, that's fair. Because they're going inside at night.
You know?
Stupid question. Should have thought about that one before. That makes a lot of sense. That's how you get guys there, right?
Hey, man, listen. That's an easy yes. You know what I'm saying?
You can't come with me, babe. I'm going to a summit.
You know what I'm saying?
Just sleeping all day.
We taking notes and watching film. That's all we doing.
Yeah, Baldy did say they did that.
You know?
Taking notes on who knows what.
Hey,
watching film
listen.
on.
I was in Denver, Colorado last week.
Yes, you were. Okay, so let's dive into the Quinn Meinerz conversation. Todd, just off the top of your head, is Quinn the best guard in the NFL? Number one.
He's one of the best.
I agree. And is he the absolute best? I don't know. There might be stats that say he is. There's probably a lot of stats that say he isn't. But my point to asking you, and you answered it perfectly to help my point, is it doesn't matter if he's the best. Mm-hmm. Because if you are one of the best, even if you're like close to being one of the best, and if you are young and still have a lot of room to potentially grow and a lot of years left in your career, and a team used a top pick on you like the Broncos did, using a third-round pick on a guard is a pretty substantial pick. Teams are going to pay you, and you are going to be able to reset the market. So it doesn't matter. Like we don't have to argue if Quinn is number 1, 2, 3, or 4 guard in the league, because just the fact he's in that conversation, he can reset the market if he wants. And do you agree with me?
Yes, I do. I mean, you look at the list of top 10 quarterbacks that we had, and I think to be number 1 is very, very hard because you have to do so much to separate yourself that our list could have changed. Like our 3 could have been our 4, our 4 could have been our 5. But no matter what, if you go down the list, almost every quarterback on there has already reset the market at some point.
Who was your 10th on the quarterback list that we did earlier today on our first show? Did you have Kirk?
Kirk, yeah.
You had Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's ever reset the market, but he did something no quarterback's ever done.
Guaranteed money.
Signed a fully guaranteed money, which was almost at the top of the market. So he reset the market in one way. My 10th was Justin Herbert. He, I think, reset the market when he signed his contract last offseason.
Yep.
And he's the 10th best quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. He's good, but he's not number 1. And he even reset the market. We're talking about 10 out of 32. With guards, we're talking about there's 64 starting guards in the NFL since you have 2 on each side.
Yep.
So you could actually make the case that maybe the top 20 guards will reset the market. I don't think it's quite like that for guards because I don't think there's 20 guards that are worthy of setting the market. But there's probably 10 at any one point in time. And some might have just reset the market, so they have to wait another couple of years. But it's a really good point. Like, you can be the 9th, 10th best quarterback, and no one really cares. The agents, teams probably try to knock those players down in contract negotiations, but at the end of the day, they just say, you're either going to pay us or someone else is going to pay us because we're getting this money.
For sure. And that's why paying Quinn early is so important for the Broncos. If they pay him now, I don't think they have to reset the market. But if they wait till next year, you better be ready to reset the market.
Interesting. So you think they could get... So that's kind of a team-friendly deal in that way.
Yeah.
And tell me if I'm wrong, but team-friendly deals always seem like team-friendly deals because they're taking a discount to play for you, to stay with the team that drafted them, the team that they're with right now. But in reality, to me, they're also getting something in return for that. They're getting $50 million guaranteed before their contract's actually up. So it is looked at as like a team-friendly deal, but they are still getting something in return, and that's why, let's say Quinn, instead of getting $21 million a year, would take $17 million a year, is because he knows that he's set for the rest of his life. His kids are set for the rest of his life because he's going to get, $50, $60 million guaranteed right now.
Yeah, you're always getting something.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah. You're getting a lot less, but you get something. So I guess if you want something, I think it's time to sign. And I think there's a way for them to put him like top 4, top 3, and have him make really good money. But I think that if he has another year like he did last year, I think he's gonna, earn being the top paid guard in the NFL.
I 100% agree with you. So the question with that, though, is, do you trust, and you being Todd, you being a former player, you being a current analyst, and then you also being the Broncos side of this, would you and do you trust Quinn to pay him now? Because that is the little risk that you're taking as the Broncos, is like, last year wasn't a fluke, right? Like, we don't want to pay this guy, and then it turns out he's actually like a bottom third guard in the NFL, and he's making top money right now.
Yeah, I think with him, I think he's gotten better over time.
Yeah.
I think he's, he was good the year before that, but then last year he just really just broke out and just kind of found his stride. And hopefully he stays in that pocket. I think it's always scary to pay guys when they have like a good year 3 years ago, and then the next 2 years are like, okay, but now it's time for a contract. You're like, ooh, is this guy? I think when guys continue to get better, I think it's easy to go ahead and, write the check, because you want that upward trajectory, and it hasn't like tailed off for him. It will at some time. Everybody's career does. You just won't be yourself, but I think he's still going up. And it seems like he found, how he fits in the NFL best last year. And so hopefully he can continue to like expand on that to just keep getting better. I think every player's role is different, and what they're asked to do is different. And I think that by the position you play, there are some things that you're good at naturally, and there's some things you have to work on. And I think that he was able to really get better at the things he did naturally and find his like footing in the NFL. So I think that's why he's been more successful.
100%. I agree with everything you said. He's 25 years old, too, so you're going to pay him 4 or 5 year deal, and you're not going to be worried about the back end of that deal. In fact, it is so rare for players to actually live out a deal. Von Miller did that in Denver, which was so incredibly rare, especially since when he signed the deal, it was the biggest deal for a defensive player in NFL history. The fact that he saw all 5 years of that deal was insane, so rare. Quinn actually is a guy where you pay him 5 years, first 3 year guaranteed, just like a normal deal is. But you might actually, as the Broncos, say, like, he's going to play out this entire deal when we sign him to that. And you're 100% right. His trajectory is only going up from here. So, and then just his mental makeup, too. That's also like the other box that you have to check. I have no question that Quinn's going to get this contract and continue to work just as hard. That's something that is easy to evaluate some players, not as easy for other guys. I think for the most part, though, front offices know who is worth giving the money to, and so I think Quinn is worth that. So you mentioned if they wait until next year, he'd have to reset the market. Resetting the market would be Landon Dickerson, the guard from the Eagles that Baldy mentioned, came out in the exact same draft class, and the Eagles gave him a contract extension earlier this season. He got 4 years, $84 million, $21 million per year for an offensive guard.
Yep.
If I didn't know these numbers coming into to these shows, I would have thought the highest paid guard gets like $14 million. So we're talking like so much money. Garett Bolles, a highly paid left tackle, gets $17 million a year. So next year, that number would probably be 4 years, $88 million, $22 million a year. What realistically what sort of discount do you think the Broncos could get by doing it this year?
I think just because I know how much, where you're drafted plays into your contract and your negotiations. I think that they can definitely get him for less than 21. I think they could kind of look around the O-lineman room as well. And I don't think they have to. I don't know if like paying him more than Garett Bolles is what he's looking for. Maybe it is, but I think that it would be reasonable to say, hey, we're paying Garett this, we're paying McGlinchey this. I think we can fit you right in, pretty even. Garrett's 17 a year. How does that sound? I think that's how teams like to do it, and I think that, kind of sounds like it makes sense in my opinion.
100%, Todd. I completely agree with you, especially you look around the rest of this list. Landon Dickerson was an early second-round pick, I believe, so that's substantially higher than like a mid-third round pick. Then you look Quenton Nelson, obviously a fifth pick in the draft, which is insane. He's tied for the third highest paid guard, making $20 million a year. Zach Martin is making $18.5. He's the sixth highest paid guard. He was also a first-round pick, I believe. So unfortunately, because it makes no sense, but you're absolutely right. That's how the NFL operates. You just get an extra $1 million if you were a successful first-round pick, where if you were just as good as an undrafted guy, you're going to make just $1 million less than that first-round pick just because he was a first-round pick and you weren't. And actually, between a first-round pick and an undrafted guy, unfortunately, it's probably a lot more than just $1 million, the difference there. But you mention the rest of the offensive lineman room. So we're talking Zach Martin's at $18.5 million, and he's the sixth highest paid guard. Then there's two other guards who are making $17 million. I could see Quinn fitting right into where Garett Bolles is and Mike McGlinchey is. Garett Bolles is $17 million a year. Mike McGlinchey is like $17.5. I could see, for everyone getting it to like fair terms, them saying, okay, we'll pay you like $100,000 more than Mike McGlinchey, and we'll make you $17.6 million. You're right in the offensive lineman room, but we'll give you that little bump to be a little more. And then that puts him in the top 5 in terms of highest paid offensive guards in the NFL. He gets a massive signing bonus right away, right now. He gets a lot of guaranteed money, and the Broncos would truly get a value deal there by getting him at $17 million, because especially you have to imagine in 3 years that $17 million is going to be an even better deal.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't know if I see them matching with the tackles. I think they might go to his agent and be like, hey, we're only paying us tackles 17. Those are the most expensive old linemen, on the line. Like, we can't pay him more than the tackles. So I feel like they probably go 17 and just try to make it like even, but not more than anybody. Just because of the logic, like,
sure,
you know
of course.
What I'm saying?
I mean, and McGlinchey was just last year when he signed the 17.5, so that's a pretty recent number. Bolles was actually many years ago, but they could come and say, well, no, McGlinchey, our tackle, is 17.5. Let's do just 17. I could totally see that. But do you think Meinerz would accept 17 if he knows he can reset the market at 21.5 or 22 million? Would he go all the way down to 17 to get it a year early?
How much do you believe in yourself, and how healthy do you think you can stay? I think that's the big question. Because if, let's just say, knock on wood, that it doesn't happen, phenomenal, all pro level for the first 6 games. He's out for 5, and then he comes back, and he's kind of himself, but he's just getting back healthy. You can't reset the market. Right. Like, you got to be healthy the whole year. You got to play at a Pro Bowl level the whole year, and you got to be yourself the whole year. You can't have a bad game. Like, I think it just takes the risk out of it, getting your money kind of up front. Although you're missing out on $4 million a year, is it worth it to know that you don't have to, no matter what happens this season, knock on wood, any injury, miss a little bit of time for family thing, blah, 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 you're getting your money and you're already set.
Man, the injury thing is something that I have not even thought about. I was thinking on you're kind of gambling on yourself in terms of like, will you be good? Of course, anyone in the NFL probably thinks, especially if they just had a really good season, they're going to have another good season. Yeah, you can't control, especially in the any position in the NFL, but especially on offensive linemen. Guys are falling left and right every single play. Yep. And you've got ankles, you've got knees everywhere around. That would be so tough to pass up on. Yep. And that is where the Broncos have the power in that respect. Quinn has the power to say, any other team next year is going to pay me $22 million. But you guys, but the Broncos say, well, we can give you $50 million guaranteed now. That's what Landon Dickerson got, $50 million guaranteed. And this is a third-round pick, so Quinn's probably made, $5 million in his first 3 years of his deal. And I think Landon Dickerson got a signing bonus of $28 million. So that's what the Broncos are holding in front of him, is a $30 million check right now. when he's made
different.
$5 million, which is a lot of money, but still, like that. You're right. That is different.
Yeah, I'm sign it.
I am
Turn it
too,
in.
because then your head, when you said the injury thing, and knock on wood, or touch wood, when you say the injury thing, my head just goes to, oh shit, you're right. Okay, so then next year you can't reset the market. So then you're probably signing a 1-year prove it deal, and the prove it deal might still be like for $10 million. That $10 million is a far cry from the $50 million that you were guaranteed, or the $30 million that you got last year in a signing bonus, and then you have to bet on yourself again to bounce back to that all-pro form, and then also to not get injured again.
Yep.
And then your mind just starts spinning like, well, what if another just freak injury happens? Well, then that's 2 years that you've had to sign, and that's just scary. So I totally see, and like the Broncos really benefited with doing this from Chris Harris Jr. They signed him like a year early, got him on a fantastic deal, and it was so good of a deal that a couple years later, Chris was like, no, you guys have to give me more, kind of what Courtland Sutton did. And it was such a good deal. The Broncos just gave him more because they're like, okay, you're right. This is such a good deal.
You got you.
Yeah. They did it with Derek Wolfe as well, where they signed him before the season was over. He got some injury or guarantees from injury that if anything happened, he was going to be okay, especially for Wolfe being a guy that had dealt with injuries in the past, was key, and his deal was really good. You see Malik Jackson plays out the rest of the season, goes somewhere else, and gets absolutely paid, and good for Malik, but I have to imagine Derek was like, man, I should have waited, especially after not being injured, but that is the give and take there. So, oh man, I feel like Quinn is a guy that should reset the market, but putting it this way, maybe the Broncos do get a little bit of a discount. I don't think it's going to be as big. I still think he becomes the highest paid offensive lineman on the Broncos. I'll go 4 years, $80 million a year.
Oh, I don't know if he'll get that. I think that just because we talked about draft position, plus he hasn't got to like that all-pro level yet. We know that he can be, but he wasn't voted there because of where he was drafted mostly.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll just automatically put him in front. Now, I think anything in top 5, I think works. So I know, like, we talked about Wolf's deal versus Malik's deal. Malik's deal was like a top 5 deal. Wolf's deal was like a not like maybe top 20 deal where he deserved top 5 money. And so I think if they are willing to give him at least top 5 money, even though you don't reset the market, take the money and just be happy with the deal. You know what I'm saying? Because after Landon Dickerson, I don't know the whole guard market, but I don't know too many guards that are coming up that could possibly reset it.
No,
so you'll probably be top 5 for the next 2 or 3 years, you know?
Yep. It's a really good point. And man, whether it's 17 or 19 million, is that going to be what makes you risk all the injury guarantees that are out on the table? It's a really, really good perspective, Todd, especially coming from a former player who knows this better than anyone. And just one more thing on Quinn, why I think the Broncos, if Quinn forces the Broncos to reset the market, why I think the Broncos even would still do that, is something that Baldy said. For some reason, I guess not for some reason, but it's very well known how much Sean Payton values guards. The guard play. When everyone else in the NFL is looking at tackles, we want our great tackles on the left side, the right side. Clearly the Broncos have invested in both of those as well. But Sean says, I need to have 2 good guards. As Baldy said, he had the 2 highest paid guards in New Orleans. He might even have the 2 highest paid guards in Denver after the Quinn gets signed. And having those staples is such a big piece for Sean Payton's offense that I think there is no chance that Quinn is not a Bronco after his contract's over. I think he's absolutely going to get signed, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whatever the money is. I just see that Sean walking into George's office and being like, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. And, if things get a little sticky, maybe like the Will Lutz situation when maybe he signed with Jacksonville and Sean picks up the phone and is like, you're not going anywhere. Come on, George, just make the deal happen. I think that's exactly what would happen. Worst case scenario if Quinn gets close to leaving. Yeah,
I agree. And it would make sense that he'd be the first player that they re-sign that was here before he got here. So it totally makes sense. The position, his play, just continue to elevate. I'm fine with it. I think it's a great move.
And then especially because, as Baldy said, one of the reasons why Sean liked to have 2 great guards is to be able to keep the line at the line of scrimmage and not get pushed back so that Drew has enough space to step up, assuming that's because he's a little shorter, but also not as mobile. Well, Bo Nix has been comped to Drew Brees a ton here, so it's not like Sean's looking for a totally different offense than what he had with Drew Brees. So, man, I just think it all makes sense. Pay Quinn. If you're the Broncos, you pay him now?
Yeah, just pay him now.
Pay him now. Give him his $17 million. Give him a massive signing bonus. Give him a check right now. And that's also something that the Broncos, ownership-wise, can do more than other teams. They can just hand out signing bonuses as much as they want because they actually have the cash, where other teams can only do limited signing bonuses. And even the Broncos 5 years ago were kind of limited in what they could do cash-wise. Now the Broncos aren't limited at all. So they can sweeten the deal for Quinn by giving him even more money up front, which I'm sure players like.
Yeah, I think he should do it. And if he waits till next year, I don't think Pats will get done this year. So Pat's looking at next year. That's a lot of money.
It's true.
For 2 players in 1 year. I don't know if how the Broncos are going to feel about that. Get your money now. Let Pat get his.
Do you see what the Boston Celtics are doing right now? They paid Jason Tatum $300 million, largest contract in NFL history yesterday. They paid Derek White, who's from Colorado. They gave him over $100 million. They paid...
they already played Jaylen Brown.
They paid Jaylen. Wasn't that this year that they paid him?
Yeah, early this year.
Yeah, that's a $250 million deal. They win the championship this year. And then yesterday, the same day, they paid about $500 million in contracts that are fully guaranteed. The Boston Celtics ownership group said, we're selling the team. They said, we're going to sign everyone, and then someone else is paying the checks.
Exactly. Smart business, man.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. This is about as valuable, I imagine, as the Celtics are going to be right now.
Yeah, and they could... Boston, I mean the Garden, you make that in ticket sales.
Yep.
Hike them up $20 a pop, and you'll be you're good. They're covered that.
Especially after a championship team.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Without
so
a doubt.
That's good business right there. What the Celtics are doing. Let's hope it doesn't work out from the Nuggets perspective. But this show has worked out. Shout out to Baldy for tuning in with us. Shout out to Todd for doing a double show Tuesday. Shout out to you here for doing that as well. And we will be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. to round out the week. Only 4 shows this week. So if you have some extra time on Friday and you want to listen to a show, we did 2 shows today. So you got plenty of content there. Everyone have a great 4th of July, but the guys will be back tomorrow, 11 a.m.
We all silly like the mayor.